The horizon of Aurora Station burned red under the constant bombardment of alien fire. Commander Lyra Voss stood on the command deck, her hands clenched on the railing, her eyes locked on the streams of energy that tore through the outer defenses. Every explosion that shook the station sent a shiver through her body, but she refused to let fear show. Civilians and soldiers alike looked to her for guidance, and she could not fail them. Not yet. Reports kept coming in. The Zerathi fleet had already conquered several neighboring star systems, leaving nothing but devastation in their wake. Their ships moved with terrifying precision, as if each pilot were connected to a hive mind, every maneuver perfectly calculated. Lyra knew that conventional strategies would not work here. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and surrounded on all sides. Every passing hour brought the station closer to annihilation. In the control room, technicians scrambled to patch damaged systems. Alarms blared ceaselessly, blinking red warnings at every console. Communications channels buzzed with static and fragments of messages from outlying colonies, most of them already silent. Lyra's second-in-command, Captain Soren Hale, approached her with a grim expression.
"Commander," he said, voice tight, "we've lost contact with the outer mining colonies. There's nothing left for us to defend there."
If the Zerathi break through here, Aurora Station will fall in less than 12 hours.
Lyra took a slow breath, her mind racing through every possibility.
She had trained for countless scenarios, but nothing could prepare her for the feeling of hopelessness pressing down like a physical weight. She knew every soldier under her command was exhausted, every civilian terrified, and yet, giving up was not an option. Humans did not surrender. "We hold," she said finally, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "We fight. We survive. Even if it's our last day, we make it count." Her words seemed to ripple through the room, offering a fragile comfort. Soldiers straightened, civilians nodded, and somewhere deep in her chest, a spark of defiance ignited. She refused to let despair take root. Humanity had survived far worse than alien invaders. They always had. Outside, the Zerathi ships drew closer. Their massive warships blotted out the stars, casting shadows across the station's battered surface. Lyra watched as smaller fighters detached from the main fleet, diving toward Aurora Station with lethal speed. The station's cannons opened fire, beams of energy slicing through the darkness, but the alien vessels adapted too quickly, dodging with unnerving precision. Lyra's mind raced. She had to think, to act, to find some advantage, however small. Her eyes flicked to the sensor console, where a junior officer monitored incoming signals. "Any sign of reinforcements?" Lyra asked, her voice tight. The officer hesitated, fingers trembling over the controls. "Nothing, Commander, I mean—"
"There is a signal, but it's faint, unclear. We can't confirm it yet."
Lyra narrowed her eyes. "A signal? What kind of signal?" The officer swallowed hard. "It seems human, from a fleet approaching. But it's far, and I don't know if they can get here in time."
Lyra felt her heart skip.
Could it be true? Could help really be on the way? She had been trained to temper hope with caution, but even a flicker of possibility was better than nothing. She signaled the officer to continue tracking it. Minutes stretched into hours as the battle raged on. Aurora Station shuddered under constant bombardment. Emergency lights painted the hallways in red, and the hum of machinery mixed with distant screams and explosions. Soldiers moved like shadows, repairing damaged systems, manning defensive positions, and keeping civilians safe. Each life saved felt like a small victory, even as the larger battle seemed hopeless. Lyra took a moment to walk among them. She saw a young engineer, barely more than a teenager, struggling to patch a broken conduit while sparks flew around him. "Keep going," she said firmly, placing a hand on his shoulder.
"You're making a difference." He nodded, eyes wide but determined, and returned to his work. It was moments like these that reminded her why humans were never truly defeated.
Courage was not measured by weapons or numbers. It was measured by willingness to act when everything seemed lost. Back on the command deck, the signal from the approaching fleet grew stronger. Lyra felt a surge of cautious hope. She contacted Captain Hale.
Prepare the station for possible reinforcements. If they're real, we need to coordinate immediately.
And if they're not, we fight anyway. We survive. Hours passed. The alien ships pressed their advantage, cutting through Aurora Station's outer defenses with terrifying efficiency. The station's shields flickered under repeated hits, warning systems blaring. Civilians huddled in shelters, clutching one another, praying for some miracle. And yet, through it all, the human spirit remained unbroken. Then, a flicker on the sensors caught Lyra's eye. The faint signal she had hoped for now resolved into clear outlines, ships unlike any she had seen in this sector of the galaxy. They were human. Fighters, frigates, and even a few capital ships moved with purpose, forming a formation that radiated strength despite the distance.
"Commander!" a technician shouted. "They're here! The fleet dare!" "It's real!" Lyra's heart surged. She allowed herself a moment to feel the raw, uncontainable relief before steel returned to her resolve.
The battle was far from over. The Zarathi would notice immediately, and they would not hesitate to destroy any incoming forces. She gave orders swiftly, her voice cutting through the din.
"All units, prepare for joint operations with the incoming fleet.
Prioritize targeting alien command ships. Protect the civilians at all costs.
Everyone else, focus on survival and cover. Reinforcements are coming, and we will make them count."
Outside, the first human ships arrived within range. The Zarathi reacted immediately, sending a swarm of fighters to intercept. Aurora Station's guns joined the fray, beams of energy streaking across the void. For the first time in weeks, Lyra saw a glimmer of hope in the chaos. Humans were fighting back, not just to survive, but to reclaim control. The battle escalated quickly. Human pilots executed daring maneuvers, weaving through enemy fire. Striking where the aliens were weakest, Aurora Station's defenses synchronized with the fleet, creating a web of counterattacks that began to push the Zarathi forces back. It was messy, dangerous, and far from perfect, but it was working. Lyra watched the tactical displays with a mix of anxiety and pride. The human reinforcements had not arrived as a miracle of technology. They had come because humans did not give up. Every move relied on courage, on quick thinking, on teamwork. It was not sheer firepower that was turning the tide. It was ingenuity and determination. Hours bled into night. Aurora Station still shook under fire, but the Zarathi had begun to falter. Ships that once moved with terrifying precision now scattered, trying to avoid human counterattacks. Lyra allowed herself a small, private smile. The impossible was becoming possible. Still, she knew the danger was far from over. The main Zarathi mothership had not yet engaged fully. Their ultimate weapon, whatever it might be, still loomed somewhere in the dark void beyond the battlefield. The humans had gained a foothold, but survival would demand more than courage. It would demand brilliance, sacrifice, and unbreakable will. As Lyra gazed out at the horizon, human ships gleaming against the void, she allowed herself one thought, unspoken but deeply felt. Even in the darkest hour, humanity would never surrender. They had landed when all hope seemed lost, and with that arrival, everything had changed. Aurora Station, battered but unbroken, continued to fight. Human soldiers, ordinary citizens, and the newly arrived fleet moved as one. The battle was far from over, but the spark of resistance burned brighter than it had in months. Somewhere in the chaos, Lyra felt a quiet certainty settle over her. No matter the odds, humans would endure. Humans would triumph. And in that certainty, for the first time in weeks, the commander allowed herself to believe that the impossible might yet be within reach. The human fleet moved with purpose, weaving between the flaming wreckage of the Zarathi attack. Lyra Voss kept her eyes glued to the tactical displays, coordinating every move with General Cale Doran, the leader of the reinforcements. Cale's voice came over the comm link. calm but commanding, cutting through the chaos like steel. "Lyra, focus your station's fire on the wing of smaller fighters. I'll take the frigates and the capital ships. Keep civilians safe. Humans have a way of turning numbers into nothing when we fight together."
Lyra felt a surge of confidence.
Even in exhaustion, she could sense it. Humans did not yield, and humans never stopped adapting. Every human ship seemed to move with intention, every soldier thinking 2 steps ahead, using instinct as much as technology. The Zerathon may have had superior weapons, but they had never faced a force that thrived on unpredictability. The first clash was brutal. Human fighters darted between the enemy's ships like flitting birds, firing concentrated bursts into vulnerable hulls before vanishing into the smoke and debris of battle. Lyra watched one pilot, barely 20, pull a risky maneuver to save a civilian transport from destruction. The boy's courage sparked a ripple of determination through the fleet. Humans had a way of inspiring each other in the worst moments, and now, even the youngest among them were fighting as if survival depended not just on skill, but on will. On Aurora Station, engineers and technicians worked feverishly to repair damage caused by the initial bombardment. Sparks flew, and warning lights flashed constantly, but human hands moved with deliberate care. Every repaired conduit, every restored energy panel, allowed the station to stay in the fight. Civilians were drafted to assist in any way they could. Some ran supplies, others monitored sensors, and a few even helped recalibrate targeting systems. Lyra smiled grimly as she watched them. Courage was contagious. Ingenuity was universal. The Zerathi, however, were relentless. Their capital ships unleashed waves of energy, tearing through the void with destructive force. One massive warship fired a beam so wide it could have shattered the station's outer shell in an instant. Lyra barked orders, rerouting power to reinforce shields and recalibrating the cannons to intercept. She knew that relying solely on human ingenuity in this moment would not be enough. They needed something bold, something the aliens could not anticipate. Kale's voice cut through the calm again. "Lyra, we're implementing a maneuver I call the Phantom Sweep. We'll split our forces to create a decoy, drawing their main fleet away while your station focuses on controlling the central approach. Humans move faster when the enemy underestimates us. Trust me, this will work." Lyra allowed herself a small nod. She trusted KL. She trusted the human ability to improvise.
Understood.
Preparing diversion channels. All units follow my mark. Moments later, the battle shifted. Human ships, moving as one but in unpredictable patterns, split into 2 groups. One flew directly toward the alien fleet, baiting them into pursuit. The other, including Aurora Station's augmented drones, struck from unexpected angles, hitting weak points in enemy shields. Explosions lit the void, painting the blackness in streaks of fire and metal. The Zerathi faltered, confused by human tactics they had never encountered before. On the ground, civilians watched as the alien ship scrambled to respond to the sudden chaotic assault. Some had feared they would never see another sunrise. Yet here, in the midst of destruction, humans were turning the tide. Engineers rigged old mining equipment into energy emitters, repurposing them to disrupt enemy sensors. Soldiers combined conventional weapons with improvised tools, creating traps that tore through Zerathi fighters. Lyra moved among them, her presence a constant reassurance. "Think fast, act faster," she urged, pointing at a broken energy conduit. "If we can reroute this, we can create a feedback loop to fry their targeting system." The civilians worked feverishly, hands shaking but hearts steady. Within minutes, the system hummed, and Aurora Station's sensors detected Zerathi targeting disruptions. Human ingenuity had carved an advantage where none had existed before. Every small victory, every improvised tactic, amplified the sense that humans could fight beyond what logic predicted. Kale's fleet pressed their advantage. Fighters zipped through alien formations, exploiting gaps left by the confusion. One human frigate, piloted by Commander Rena Solis, dove directly into a cluster of enemy ships, releasing a swarm of microdrones that sabotaged engines and shields before escaping. The Zerathi scrambled, unsure how to respond to tactics that seemed reckless yet brilliantly calculated. They had encountered advanced species before, but never humans, creatures who seemed to thrive on chaos, turning apparent mistakes into triumphs. Lyra's eyes shifted back to the station. Reports indicated structural damage in the lower levels, and she sent teams to reinforce weak points. Every hallway, every control room, every bridge needed human hands. She knew that survival depended on more than just the fleet. It depended on the determination of every single individual. From the youngest volunteer to the most seasoned soldier, the battle reached a critical moment when the Zarathi deployed a new weapon, a massive plasma cannon capable of obliterating multiple ships at once. The humans had no defense that could withstand such concentrated fire. Lyra felt her stomach tighten, but she refused to panic. She looked at her team and realized that desperation often brought out humanity's best qualities.
Focus on maneuvering, not direct confrontation, she commanded. We will disrupt them with speed, wit, and coordination.
Use the environment. The debris field can be our advantage.
The human pilots took her words to heart. They wove through floating remnants of destroyed ships, using them as shields while striking at alien supply lines. Small groups worked together in ways that the Zarathi could not anticipate. One squadron, using makeshift magnetic grapples, pulled wreckage into the path of enemy fighters, causing collisions that sent sparks and fire into the void. Civilians on Aurora Station cheered quietly as news of small victories spread through the comm channels. Engineers discovered that by overloading certain auxiliary generators, they could create short bursts of energy that blinded alien sensors momentarily. Soldiers used these windows to strike, harrying the aliens and forcing them to retreat temporarily. The humans' ability to innovate in real time, to turn desperation into advantage, left the Zarathi off balance. Kale's voice came through the comm again, his tone steady but urgent. Lyra, we're ready for the next phase.
We'll split their fleet further and target their frigate command ships. If we succeed, we may force a retreat.
Lyra nodded, her mind racing. She directed Aurora Station's energy cannons to focus on key points identified by Kale's fleet. At the same time, she sent boarding teams in smaller shuttles, aiming to disrupt alien systems from within. Every action relied on coordination, on human intuition and adaptability. The plan unfolded with astonishing effectiveness. Alien ships found themselves attacked from multiple angles at once, their formations breaking under pressure. Human fighters darted in and out, striking with precision, then disappearing before retaliation could hit. The Zarathi were learning, but too slowly. Humans adapted faster, responding to new threats with creativity and determination. Lyra allowed herself a moment to watch the chaos. She felt pride, not arrogance, but the deep, unshakable pride that humans could rise when all seemed lost. Each pilot, each soldier, each civilian was part of a living network of resistance, using intelligence, courage, and ingenuity to carve a path through impossible odds. Hours passed. The Zarathi were still formidable, but their confidence was shaken. Their attacks, once unstoppable, had become reactive, hesitant. Human ships, though fewer, moved with purpose. Aurora Station's defenses, patched and improvised, held firm. And then, a new sound, one that Lyra had not expected, reached her ears through the comm, a distant, rhythmic hum, growing louder by the second. Kale's voice followed, tense with excitement. Lyra, the main fleet is arriving.
Reinforcements have breached the outer perimeter. It's time to push forward.
Lyra felt a surge of energy, the kind that only comes when hope turns into action. The human forces, battered but unbroken, surged forward in a coordinated strike. The Zarathi could not anticipate the speed and precision with which humans adapted. Every move seemed to anticipate their next, exploiting weaknesses as quickly as they appeared. On Aurora Station, civilians and soldiers alike moved as one. Engineers rigged additional weapons to stationary points. Volunteers transported supplies to the front lines. The station itself seemed alive with determination, every person contributing to a single purpose: survival and victory. The battle had turned, but the war was far from over. Lyra knew the Zerathi had greater forces yet to unleash. But for the first time, she could see it. Human ingenuity, courage, and unity could challenge even the most advanced alien technology. As she gazed at the horizon where human and alien ships clashed in a deadly dance, Lyra whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning. We fight together, and nothing can stop us." Somewhere in the void, a human fighter pilot shouted over the comm, exhilarated despite exhaustion. "They thought we were weak. They thought we'd fall. But humans never give up." Lyra allowed herself a small, private smile. That was the truth. Humans adapted, humans resisted, and humans would prevail. The Zerathi may have underestimated them, but that mistake would cost the aliens dearly. And in the midst of fire and chaos, Lyra felt a quiet certainty settle in her heart. No matter the odds, humanity had the power to turn despair into victory. The fight was far from over, but humans were proving that even when all hope seemed lost, courage, intelligence, and unity could change everything. The human fleet had gained momentum, but the fight was far from over. The Zerathi, shaken by unexpected resistance, were regrouping, preparing to unleash their deadliest weapon yet, a massive energy cannon capable of destroying entire stations in a single strike. Lyra Voss stood on Aurora Station's command deck, eyes fixed on the approaching enemy. Sweat dripped from her forehead, but her resolve did not waver. Every human under her command depended on her decisions, and she refused to let fear dictate their fate. General Kale Doran's voice came over the comm, calm but tense. "Lyra, we've identified a critical vulnerability in the Zerathi mothership. Their energy core is overcharging to power the new weapon. If we can reach it, we can disable the cannon and force a retreat." Lyra's pulse quickened. It was a dangerous plan, nearly suicidal, but it was the only chance they had.
"I'll assemble a strike team immediately. We have to act fast before they unleash that weapon."
A team of elite human soldiers was assembled, seasoned veterans, engineers, and pilots who had proven themselves in the relentless skirmishes. Lyra briefed them quickly.
"Your target is the core of the mothership. You'll be boarding via stealth shuttles."
The Zerathi will be expecting attacks, but they won't anticipate humans improvising at every step. Move fast, work together, and remember, survival depends on creativity as much as courage. The team boarded their shuttles, engines silent, cloaked by experimental technology patched together by Aurora Station's engineers. As they approached the massive alien ship, the scale of their task became terrifyingly clear. The mothership was colossal, armored like a fortress with defensive turrets lining every surface. But humans thrived on challenges. They thrived on the impossible. Inside the mothership, chaos reigned. The Zerathi crew scrambled to respond to the human fleet attacking from multiple directions. Their confidence, once unshakable, faltered under the relentless human ingenuity. Small squads of boarding humans darted between patrols, disabling sensors and sabotaging power conduits. Every action was precise, calculated, yet improvised in real time. Humans had a way of turning desperation into advantage, and the Zerathi could not anticipate it. Lyra monitored the team from Aurora Station, heart racing. She watched as Commander Rena Solis and her group navigated through twisting corridors, avoiding patrols and neutralizing threats with clever tactics. Explosions echoed as they set charges on energy conduits, temporarily disabling sections of the ship to create cover. The aliens had superior numbers and technology, but humans had adaptability and creativity, a combination far deadlier than brute force. Meanwhile, General Kale led a daring diversion outside the mothership. His fleet engaged the alien frigates directly, drawing attention away from the boarding teams. Fighters weaved through enemy fire, using debris from destroyed ships as shields, and even small human transports were modified into improvised attack craft. Civilians, Engineers and soldiers had all contributed to making the fleet unpredictable and lethal. The Zarathi could not keep up with the constant improvisation. Inside the mothership, Lyra's strike team reached the core chamber, a massive hall filled with glowing machinery. The energy core pulsed with blinding light, radiating power that could destroy their station in moments. Solace glanced at her team. "This is it. We don't have long."
Let's make every second count. The engineers immediately went to work analyzing the core's structure.
They had one chance to overload it safely, redirecting the energy back into the mothership's systems to neutralize the weapon. Sparks flew as they connected improvised circuits and rerouted energy flow, improvising with tools scavenged from the ship itself. It was a delicate dance of human ingenuity and bravery, each second stretching into an eternity. Outside, the battle intensified. Aurora Station fired with renewed precision, coordinated with Kale's fleet to keep the Zarathi distracted. The aliens unleashed waves of fighters to intercept the shuttles, but human pilots, using daring maneuvers, evaded attacks and created openings for the boarding team. Every hit, every maneuver, demonstrated that humans were unpredictable, clever, and relentless. The Zarathi, realizing their core was under threat, activated a self-destruct protocol. Red warning lights flashed, sirens blaring throughout the mothership. Time slipped away like water through fingers. The human engineers worked faster, their hands moving with unshakable focus despite the looming danger. Lyra gritted her teeth, monitoring the countdown, knowing that failure was not an option. Suddenly, a breach alarm sounded. Alien patrols had discovered the strike team. Gunfire echoed through the hall, and Solace shouted orders directing soldiers to cover the engineers. They fought with precision, each move calculated, each action vital. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, humans adapted, using the environment to their advantage, setting traps, and turning enemy aggression against them. Lyra's calm crackled. "You're almost there. Focus on the core." Her voice carried authority and encouragement, a steadying force amid chaos. The engineers completed the final connection. Sparks and energy arcs flared as they initiated the overload sequence. The core trembled, glowing brighter and brighter. And then, with a pulse of energy, the weapon shut down. The Zarathi cannon, the one capable of annihilating Aurora Station, powered down completely. The mothership shuddered as the energy flow destabilized, throwing the alien crew into panic. Gale's fleet seized the moment. Human ships surged forward, striking fractured points in the alien formation. Fighters darted in, capital ships fired with calculated precision, and Aurora Station directed energy to weak points in the mothership's hull. The Zarathi were forced to retreat, their morale shattered by human ingenuity and courage. The strike team raced back to their shuttles as corridors collapsed around them. Explosions rocked the ship, but humans moved with determination, navigating debris and avoiding hazards with instinctive skill. They returned to the safety of the human fleet, battered but alive, carrying the knowledge that their daring plan had succeeded. Lyra allowed herself a moment to breathe. The human fleet had won a critical victory, but the cost was visible everywhere. Destroyed ships, wounded soldiers, and the exhausted faces of civilians who had witnessed the battle. Yet there was triumph in their resilience, in their willingness to risk everything to protect one another. In the aftermath, Aurora Station and the fleet reorganized. Repairs were underway, weapons recalibrated, and wounded treated. Lyra walked among the crews, offering encouragement.
"You've shown the galaxy what humans are capable of," she told them. "We fight with courage, with intelligence, and with creativity."
Today we proved that even against impossible odds, humanity prevails. Civilians shared stories of bravery, young engineers who had rigged energy shields, pilots who had improvised maneuvers to save transports, and ordinary people who had stepped into the fight with nothing but courage. Every action, every decision, had contributed to the human victory. It was a reminder that heroism came not only from trained soldiers, but from the willingness of anyone to rise when the world demanded it. Hale approached Lyra on the deck, nodding at the displays of the retreating Zerathi fleet.
They underestimated us,
he said quietly.
They thought fear would stop us, but they forgot that humans fight with everything they have, and then some.
They will think twice before challenging us again. And if they don't, we'll be ready.
Even as the fleet celebrated small victories, Lyra knew the war was far from over.
The Zerathi would regroup, their technology advanced, their strategies evolving. But humans had something they could never replicate: adaptability, ingenuity, and the unshakable will to survive and protect one another. The battle had changed everything. Humans were no longer passive defenders. They were a force the galaxy could not ignore. Every move, every choice, every act of courage had reinforced a truth older than time itself. When humanity fights together, no enemy, no matter how powerful, can suppress their spirit. Lyra stood at the observation deck, gazing out at the void where stars twinkled like distant beacons of hope. The human fleet moved in formation, battered but resilient, a testament to the strength of a species that refused to bow. She allowed herself a moment of quiet pride, knowing that today, humans had proven that bravery, ingenuity, and unity could overcome even the most daunting threat. In the heart of the chaos, one thing was certain. The Zerathi had encountered something they could not calculate, could not predict, and could not easily defeat. Humanity had landed when all hope seemed lost, and in doing so, they had rewritten the rules of survival. Lyra whispered to herself, a promise and a challenge all at once. We adapt, we endure, we fight, and we will not be stopped. The human fleet, guided by ingenuity, courage, and the unwavering will to survive, prepared for the next phase of the battle. The galaxy had seen a glimpse of what humans were capable of, and it had only just begun. The human fleet surged forward, emboldened by their recent victories, yet every commander knew the battle was far from over. The Zerathi mothership had been disabled temporarily, but the alien forces still swarmed the surrounding sector, determined to crush Aurora Station and its defenders once and for all. Commander Lyra Voss stood on the station's command deck, her eyes scanning the stars where human and alien ships danced a deadly ballet. Every movement mattered. Every second was a chance for triumph or annihilation. General Cale Doran's voice came over the calm but firm. Lyra, the Zerathi are regrouping. Their remaining frigates are forming a defensive perimeter around the retreating capital ships. If we strike now, we can force a full withdrawal. This is our moment. Humans do not retreat. Humans win! Lyra's jaw tightened. She had seen too many near defeats, too many lives lost to underestimate the aliens' determination. But she also knew something Cale understood instinctively. Humans thrived in the impossible. When cornered, they adapted, improvised, and fought with courage that no technology could match. She turned to her officers. Prepare the fleet for coordinated strike. Every ship, every cannon, every human, now is the time. We move together, and we make this decisive. Keep civilians safe at all costs, but we will not let them face the enemy alone. The human fleet adjusted, weaving through the debris of destroyed alien ships, their movements deliberate yet unpredictable. Human fighters darted between enemy formations, drawing fire away from the station, while capital ships targeted weak points in the remaining Zerathi vessels. Improvisation was the human advantage. Pilots flew in patterns designed to confuse the enemy. Engineers raided auxiliary weapons mid-flight, and soldiers coordinated strikes that no alien strategy could anticipate. Lyra watched as one human frigate, barely holding together from previous skirmishes, launched a daring boarding mission. Its team deployed micro-drones that infiltrated the enemy ship, sabotaging engines and creating chaos from within. The Zerathi scrambled, their formations faltering as humans exploited every weakness with ingenuity rather than brute force. On Aurora Station, engineers worked frantically to maintain energy shields while redirecting power to key weapons. Civilians assisted wherever they could, transporting supplies, repairing systems, and providing moral support. Their bravery was quiet, but no less critical. Every act reinforced the human network of resistance that the aliens could not predict or counter. Lyra's eyes scanned the tactical display, noting a vulnerability in the alien formation. A squadron of human fighters could exploit it to break the defensive perimeter. She gave the order, and the ship surged forward, weaving through fire and debris with precision and daring. Explosions lit the void, but the humans pressed on, each move calculated yet flexible, designed to adapt to any response. Kale's voice echoed across the comm.
Lyra, the remaining Zarathi capital ships are exposed.
If we push, we can end this battle today. Every human on the line counts. We fight not just with weapons, but with courage and wit. Remember, humans prevail when the odds seem impossible. Lyra nodded. All units, focus fire on the exposed capital ships. Boarding teams move in to disrupt their core systems. Everyone else, protect civilians and maintain fleet integrity. Now is the moment to show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. The attack unfolded with precision. Human pilots exploited gaps in the alien defenses, striking critical systems with relentless determination. Boarding teams disabled energy shields and communications, spreading chaos through the Zarathi ranks. Aurora Station fired coordinated volleys, synchronized with Kale's fleet to maximize pressure. Every strike demonstrated not just skill but adaptability, creativity, and unyielding resolve. The Zarathi attempted to regroup, but humans anticipated their moves, adapting faster than the aliens could counter. One human fighter piloted by Lieutenant Mara Vex darted through enemy fire, releasing a series of makeshift charges that tore through a key engine module, crippling the enemy ship. The aliens had never faced a force that could turn improvisation into a weapon. Every human move was unexpected, unpredictable, and devastatingly effective. On Aurora Station, Lyra monitored the battle while coordinating repairs and defenses. Engineers rerouted power through damaged conduits, creating bursts of energy that disabled alien targeting systems. Civilians relayed vital intelligence, noting enemy movements and weak points. Soldiers used this information to execute precise strikes, turning the tide further in humanity's favor. Kale's fleet closed in on the remaining Zarathi forces. Human capital ships fired with unerring accuracy, exploiting every structural weakness uncovered by boarding teams and pilots alike. The alien formation broke apart, their ships scattered and vulnerable. The humans pressed the advantage relentlessly, refusing to allow the aliens time to recover. Lyra's mind focused on the final objective, forcing a complete alien withdrawal. She knew the Zarathi had no choice but to retreat if their capital ships were compromised. The humans had achieved tactical superiority, but the final push required coordination, timing, and courage beyond measure. She issued the order.
All units, converge on the central formation. Boarding teams, target the remaining power cores.
Fighters provide cover and disrupt enemy maneuvers. Aurora Station, focus energy volleys on key vessels.
This is the final strike. Humans do not yield. The human fleet surged forward, a coordinated wave of fire, ingenuity, and determination.
Boarding teams infiltrated the last operational Zarathi ships, sabotaging engines and overriding control systems. Human pilots executed daring maneuvers, drawing fire and creating openings. Aurora Station unleashed volleys of energy, hitting the enemy in precise bursts that left them unable to respond effectively. As the Zarathi mothership's remaining forces faltered, the aliens realized their defeat was inevitable. Their ships attempted to retreat, but human forces pursued relentlessly, disabling engines and communications. The aliens had underestimated humans' capacity for strategy, courage, and improvisation. Every move had been countered, every weakness exploited. Lyra allowed herself a moment of relief. The human fleet had achieved what seemed impossible, forcing the aliens into full retreat. Aurora Station, battered but unbroken, had survived. The civilians had endured. The soldiers had fought with ingenuity and courage. Humanity had proven that even when all hope seemed lost, they could prevail. Kael's voice came over the comm, victorious but measured.
Lyra, the Zerathi are retreating. They've lost their command cohesion, their fleet scattered.
Human forces have turned what seemed impossible into victory. Humanity prevails. Lyra's eyes swept over the fleet. Ships floated among the debris of the battlefield, battered but alive, crewed by humans who had refused to surrender. She felt pride swell in her chest, not arrogance, but deep, unshakable pride in the resilience, courage, and ingenuity of her species. Humans had taken the impossible and made it their own. On the observation deck, civilians and soldiers gathered to witness the aftermath. Fires flickered across damaged ships. Energy readings stabilized, and the stars seemed brighter, almost as if the universe itself acknowledged humanity's triumph. People embraced, tears mingling with laughter, and for the first time in weeks, hope was tangible. Lyra turned to Kael, who stood beside her, his expression a mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction.
They thought fear would stop us, Lyra said quietly.
They thought technology alone could crush human spirit. But they forgot that humans fight with everything they have, and then some. Kael nodded. And now they know.
Humanity is not a species to underestimate.
We survive. We adapt. We endure. And we fight when all hope seems lost. Civilians told stories of bravery. A young engineer who had rerouted energy conduits mid-battle, saving a squad of soldiers, pilots who had improvised maneuvers to shield transports, ordinary people who had faced fear and acted with courage. Every story reinforced a truth older than the galaxy itself. Human ingenuity and determination could overcome even the most advanced threats.
Lyra allowed herself a rare moment of personal reflection.
The cost had been high, the battle relentless, yet humans had prevailed. The Zerathi would regroup, their technology advanced, but humans had demonstrated a quality no machine could replicate: creativity, courage, and an unbreakable will. They had turned despair into victory, fear into ingenuity, and desperation into triumph. The human fleet regrouped, repairing ships, tending to the wounded, and preparing for the possibility of future encounters. Lyra walked among her people, offering words of encouragement and recognition. Every human, soldier, and civilian had contributed to the victory. Every life mattered, every choice mattered. Together they had done the impossible. As the stars stretched across the void, Lyra felt a quiet certainty. Humanity had arrived, landing when all hope seemed lost, and in doing so, they had changed the course of the battle, and perhaps the course of the galaxy. Humans had shown that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the deadliest threats. Lyra gazed at the horizon, where scattered Zerathi ships retreated into the darkness. Aurora Station and the human fleet floated among the debris, battered but alive, symbols of endurance and ingenuity. She whispered a promise, both to herself and to everyone who had fought. We adapt, we endure, we fight, and we will never be stopped. In the aftermath, the galaxy would remember the day humans had refused to yield. Even when outnumbered, outgunned, and facing annihilation, humanity had prevailed. Ordinary people had become heroes. Ingenious plans had turned desperation into advantage. Courage had triumphed over fear. The story of Aurora Station and the human fleet would spread among the stars, a testament to the spirit of a species that could not be broken. Lyra stood tall on the command deck, looking out at the stars, feeling the pulse of life throughout the station and fleet. Humans had landed when all hope was gone. And they had won. They had faced the impossible, survived, and emerged stronger. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and the message was clear: underestimate humanity at your own peril. And in that moment, as the fleet repaired, the station stabilized, and survivors tended to one another, Lyra knew the truth. This was only the beginning. Humans would endure. Humans would fight. Humans would inspire. And no matter how dark the universe seemed, the light of humanity's courage and ingenuity would shine brighter than any star. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would not soon forget. When humans stand together, when they fight with courage and cleverness, when they refuse to surrender, no force, no matter how advanced, can suppress them. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again.